Well, we are at the Georgia Historical Society, and we are looking at two banners that are part of an exhibit that the Society has on display right now about the secession of Georgia, this being the 150th anniversary of the secession of the state. We put together an exhibit of materials, and including these very colorful banners. This particular one is probably the most remarkable in the entire collection of flags. This is a banner that was carried through the streets of Savannah by the citizens of Savannah in support of South Carolina's secession, which occurred in December of 1860. So on December 26th, the day after Christmas, the citizens of Savannah carried this banner through the streets of the city to show their support for South Carolina in its secession. And what you see, we have these allegorical figures on here. We have on the right-hand side, we have an eagle representing the federal government. On the far left, we have this female figure representing South Carolina. And in the center, we have another female figure representing Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Florida. And the motto on here is "Touch her if you dare." In other words, what these deep South states that have not left the United States so far, still in the Union, are saying to the federal government, if you touch South Carolina, if you try to coerce South Carolina back into the Union, then we're going to go out. So touch her if you dare, because what's going to happen is you're going to trigger the secession of these other Gulf states or deep South states by your actions. This is really a remarkable banner. I don't know of any other one in a collection anywhere. There may be, but I do not know of it. And it's remarkable that we still have this today to look at. It really gives us an amazing window on this story of secession and the sentiment, really, of this group of Southern people, of Southern secessionists and slaveholders about the relationship between the federal government, South Carolina, and their states. Of course, what we know is going to happen is that within a very short time that these other states are going to secede. Georgia will secede on January the 19th, 1861. So within just weeks after this banner is carried, Georgia will have a convention that will meet in the state capitol in Milledgeville, and that convention will vote to take the state out of the United States. All these states go out, and then in February of 1861, those 7 states form the Confederacy. This particular banner is a company flag that was carried by the Effingham Guards, which was a private militia unit that was formed at the beginning of the Civil War and then became a part of the Confederate Army. When the Civil War began, the southern states had an official militia system, but there were a number of private militia companies, paralegal units that had been formed. People knew the war was going to be coming, particularly after the John Brown raid, that there was going to be fighting between the slave and free states. With war on the horizon, a number of young men formed these private militia companies, and when the Civil War actually began, the shooting began, those units very quickly became a part of the regular Confederate Army. But this flag was carried by that unit at the beginning of the war. Now, when they became a part of the Confederate Army, these flags would have been sent home. So it's very unlikely that this was ever carried in any battle, but it was the company flag that they would have used before they became officially part of the Army. And both of these banners were painted by Firmin Serveau, who was a very noted painter here in Savannah, painted a remarkable painting that we have here in the collection of the Georgia Historical Society of the city of Savannah in 1837 as it looked. He was still here in 1861 and painted both of these banners. What we have on this side is this burning altar, and it says "Our Country and Our Home," and you can see the Savannah River in the background. South Carolina, of course, on the other side of the river here. And then the date down here, January 19th, 1861, is the date that the state of Georgia seceded from the United States. These banners are made out of silk. That's why you see where the deterioration primarily is right here around where the paint has been applied, because the paint began to eat through the silk and to destroy it at some point. These banners were donated by the descendants of the veterans, or the veterans themselves, in the 19th century. By 1960, beginning of the 100th anniversary of the Civil War, the Georgia Historical Society at that time was not financially capable of taking care of these banners, and they were really in deplorable condition. And so the leadership of the society at that time donated these flags to the National Park Service. The National Park Service, through the federal government, had them conserved over the years and then had them on display at Fort Pulaski. And then recently they began to remodel the exhibit at Fort Pulaski, and they decided that they no longer really had a place to display these. And so they contacted us, since we had originally donated to them, and said, we cannot donate them back to you, but we would like to place them with you on a long-term loan if you'd like to have them back. Of course, we were delighted to receive them in much better condition than we had given them away. And so it's very exciting for us, having donated them on the 100th anniversary, now at the 150th anniversary of the Civil War, for them to come home and for them now to be on display so that the people of Georgia and of the United States, when they visit the Georgia Historical Society, can see them and learn something about this great national crisis that faced the United States 150 years ago.